Hello, I'm Erin Harper, and I'm a local food systems and small farms educator for Champaign, Ford, Iroquois, and Vermilion counties with Illinois Extension. Growing your own vegetables at home is a great way to get the vegetables that you like to eat and have them fresh right outside your back door for a fraction of the cost of what you could get them elsewhere. So today we'll be transplanting this pepper plant into this large container. This is a 10-gallon fiber container where we will fill it with our potting soil and then put our transplant in there. A transplant is just a seed that has been started in a smaller container and grown into a small plant, also called a start. And we're just going to take this plant and transplant it into our larger container that it will live in for the rest of the summer. When planting into containers and filling them with potting soil, we want to make sure that our soil is nice and damp before we start adding it to our container. So I already added water to this potting soil and then mixed it all up. And then as I start transferring it over to the container, when you get the container a third to a halfway full, you want to stop and make sure to press down the soil, especially in these fabric containers because these containers are collapsible. So we really want to make sure that we have a nice foundation for all of our other soil and ultimately for our plant. So once you get it halfway, take some time, push the soil down, and then continue filling it. Now I've filled this a little past halfway at this point, and I'm going to take one of our transplants and test to see how tall it is. When we put a transplant or a start into our container, we always want to make sure that there's enough space for the whole plant, the top of the plant, to be just below the surface of the container or the top of the container. And we want there to be enough space so that we can add a little bit of fresh potting soil over the top of this soil block. So our original soil block that the plant is growing in, we need to add a little bit of soil over the top just to make sure that it's fully incorporated with our new soil. So I've gotten this, as I said, a little past halfway full. I'm going to test with the plant to see where I am height-wise. You can see here as I fold this over, it's a little bit, about 1.5 inches below the surface. So I'm going to add just a little bit. Well, actually, I think that's going to be good because then once I add a little soil over the top of this container, then we'll have just a little bit of extra space before the very top of our new container. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this plant from the container. When you take any plants out of a transplant container, you want to soften up the sides, just kind of give it a few little gentle squeezes, and then dump the plant out into your hand. You don't want to try to pull the plant, it can break at the base, so you want to be nice and gentle. When the plant comes out, you should be able to see the roots growing around the outside edge. And this one is pretty good. Sometimes the roots are really wrapped around there, and that's called being root bound. This one looks pretty good actually, but we still want to break up this square shape just a little bit. So we're going to just give it a few extra squeezes. You can see some of the soil falling out from this original block, and that's okay because we're about to put it in a nice fresh home. So all of that is just falling down into our container. Just break it up a little bit. And this allows the roots to know that it's okay to grow out of that shape they've been growing in for so long and to stretch out into their new home and create a good base for the rest of the growing season. All right, so I'll set that in here, and then I'm going to fill all around the edge with soil and then put in enough soil again just to cover a little bit over the top of this container. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So now I've finished filling this container with our potting soil, and once you get it up to the top, you really want to give everything a nice little smush down, not too hard, just enough to make sure everything's settled in there and that our new plant is nice and stable in its new home. And it is fully covered with just, again, a little bit of potting soil so that that whole original soil block is just below the surface of the soil. And now we're going to give it a little bit of a water to make sure everything is fully damp and nice and happy, and this will also help everything settle in a little bit better. So we're going to water the whole top surface of this container. Make sure that we get plenty of water in there. And now we wait for it to grow. Thanks for watching and happy growing.